In Arkansas, Republican Senator Tom Cotton, he's a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, joins us from D.C. Senator, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, you know, the president made it very clear, if the locals aren't going to enforce the law and allow federal property to be destroyed or defaced or vandalized, he's going to send in the troops. And I got a feeling you're on his side.
Steve, the federal government cannot allow anarchists and insurrectionists to destroy federal courthouses, federal buildings, or other federal property. These insurrectionists in the streets of Portland are little different from the insurrectionists who seceded from the Union in 1861 in South Carolina and tried to take over Fort Sumter. And just like President Lincoln wouldn't stand for that, the federal government today cannot stand for the vandalism, the firebombing, or any attacks on federal property. It is right to send federal law enforcement in to defend federal property and federal facilities.
So John Roberts, who, you know, Fox News, our friend who covers White House, he said that the administration has no plans to deploy federal agents, but that could change quickly. What do you think would change the president's mind?
Well, Portland has been an extreme case. The radical left-wing mayor, who's basically in league with the defund the police anarchists on the street, have seen over 50 days of rioting and looting and anarchy in their streets. But if you see something similar in other cities where anarchists and insurrectionists are attacking courthouses, attacking federal buildings, attacking federal land and property, then of course the federal government has a responsibility to defend its installations and its property. That's what the people expect us to do. That's what the Constitution calls for us to do.
Senator, the federal law also provides for them to arrest those who threaten it, although Mayor Wheeler and others are saying these are protesters, they're not criminals, as law enforcement suggested. There's a New York Times op-ed today that is getting some attention, and the headline is Trump's occupation of American cities has begun. In it, she goes on to say, can we just call this fascism for what it is, really laying it out? What do you say?
Well, the New York Times is a national laughingstock. Ever since they apologized for running my op-ed last month without citing a single factual inaccuracy in it, ever since they fired their own editor for running that op-ed, it reads like the syllabus from a social justice seminar. So I give little credit to what I see in the pages of the New York Times. The bigger issue, though, remains is that the federal government has a fundamental responsibility to protect its property, its facilities, and ultimately to protect our citizens from violent insurrectionists and anarchists.
And in fact, that the New York Times op-ed that you're referring to, they actually asked you, Senator, to write it, and then afterwards it's like, oh, we made a bunch of mistakes. But the headline was for that it was send in the troops. Since then, you were mentioned just a couple of days ago when Bari Weiss, who was on the op-ed page there, resigned because she said the New York Times has become completely intolerant of any views other than the super progressive view.
Well, unfortunately, Bari Weiss is correct. The New York Times for many years has been trending in that direction, but ever since they published my op-ed and then they apologized for publishing the op-ed without citing a single error in it and heads rolled for that decision, it has read like a left-wing manifesto. So I apologize to your viewers for pushing the New York Times even farther to the left, although I will say the publisher said they were going to cut the number of op-eds they ran by up to 20%. So maybe I should take credit for subjecting you to fewer of those far left-wing editorials.
So when you look at the city of Chicago and you see how many deaths there were, here are the numbers last weekend: 63 were shot, 12 were killed. The violence continues there, and you have the top cop there. His name is David Brown. He's the Chicago superintendent, and he said he had this big press conference yesterday, and he showed this video of the attacks on police yesterday afternoon. All these mobsters were, or all these people I shouldn't say mobsters, all these protesters were walking toward the monument. And then you had an organized group, according to the superintendent. The ones that, if you're looking at the video now, the ones with the black umbrellas, it looks like they organized because they started changing into all of them change into a black uniform or black outfits. This guy, you saw the red arrow, he empties out a bag of frozen water bottles and they start throwing those at the police. And then those banners, they were sharpening the tops of them, their PVC pipes, sharpening the tops of them and trying to jab them at the police officers. Here is what the superintendent said yesterday at that press conference.
Peaceful demonstrations have been hijacked by organized mobs. We just don't want to believe people will act this way toward us, that they would take advantage of our sacred right to First Amendment. But now I have ordered all of our officers to wear any and all protective gear when protests occur.
Pretty sad now that the officers have to gear up before they go out to peaceful protests. The majority of Americans are not for all the violence. What are your thoughts?
Well, that video is very disturbing, and I think there's a simple solution to it. Assault a cop, go to prison. We should have zero tolerance for these anarchists and insurrectionists and rioters who are attacking the men and women who put their lives on the line every day to protect us, to defend our lives, and to protect our property. We need to have political leaders who will support our law enforcement professionals who are out defending the rights of protesters to peaceably assemble and to protest on any reason whatsoever. But we also ought not to allow those protests to ever be hijacked by these kind of organized, radical agitators who are using it for their own purposes to, as you see in that video, try to harm and even kill police officers in some cases.
And Senator, it looks like we could see it again tomorrow, the 53rd straight night in Portland. Thanks for taking time, Senator. And if you want to read the Senator's op-ed at foxnews.com, he's got